Good evening, everybody. Welcome to BAL Facebook Live. My name is David Hilton. I'm the Technical Support Manager for the Midlands. And supporting me today behind the camera is Phil Jenkins. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about waterproofing substrates. So why do we need to waterproof any background? Well, British standards has always stated that shower areas should be tanked. Tanking and waterproof are interchangeable terms. So that they've also now extended that to all wet areas. So above the bath would need doing as well. Okay, so before we carry on, there's a few things. So there's a free goodie bag available. If you put hi in the comments, then you'll receive a free goodie bag. Also, there's a prize draw at the end. So if you ask a question along the way, then that will go into a prize draw, and then the person who gets drawn will receive a free bundle of BAL goodies. Okay, the products that I'm going to be demonstrating today are BAL Waterproofing 1C. It's a tanking solution that's for internal areas only. The second one will be BAL Tank-it, which is for internal and external areas. Okay, so let's have a look at the product itself. And so before I go on, I just wanted to say that BAL Waterproof 1C is a one-coat application. It can be used without priming in most circumstances. There are, however, two circumstances where you'll need to use a primer. And the primer you're going to have to use is BAL Primer 1C. Now that's onto a plaster area and also onto a fibre cement board. So let's have a look at the BAL Primer 1C. So I'll just put them in the bucket there, and you can see it's a lovely thick red colour to match my shirt. Okay, so I'll just demonstrate this what it looks like when you're going to roll it on. So we'll load the brush up. So as I say, BAL Primer 1C needs to be applied when it's on a fibre board. Now BAL have got their own BAL board here, and it's got a tiling side which wouldn't need a primer on, or alternatively it's got a smooth side, a decorating side. So if you're going to be clad in your own shower area and using BAL board, then on the outside the shower area, then we'd recommend that you use the external tiling side. But when you're in the shower area, if you turn it round and use the smooth side, then you don't need to prime it. So if I just show you what it looks like when we prime that board. So you can see it applies really nicely, covers really easily. It's only one coat is required. That will dry in about 15 to 30 minutes. And then you can start using your waterproofing 1C. It's a nice vivid red colour. That obviously shows that where you've been, you won't be able to cover the same area twice. Okay, I think you get the idea of that. Okay, let's have a look at the product itself. BAL Waterproofing 1C. So, like I say, it's a ready-mix product. So the beauty about this is that any excess product that's left, you can just leave in the bucket, reseal it, put it in your van, and it's good for the next day. Now, BAL Waterproofing 1C is crack bridging. Now, what we mean by that is any static crack, any board joint, you don't need to scrim tape. Any internal corners, you're going to need to scrim tape. So, let's just have a quick look at the product. So it's a nice consistency. It holds its shape there. and you can see it's got fibres in there.
What do the fibres do, David? Do they give it more strength?
So the fibres, yeah, so when that sets, it gives it more strength. There's polymer to make it adhere, and the fibres, as you say, just help bridge that crack.
And you don't need to mix that at all, it's just straight?
It's straight from the bucket. You can just whiz around there, you can see that, and it's straight from the bucket.
So you don't need to use a mixing paddle or anything?
No, so it's just good to go. So we'll just show it in application. So you can use it, you can apply it with either a trowel or a brush or a roller. So I'll just show you initially with a trowel. So as I say, what I've got already pre-prepared here is I've scrimmed up the corner and I've scrimmed up the bottom onto the tray. Now that's so what I'd like to lip onto the tray with the waterproofing, so we've got a good seal there. Right, so what we're looking for is it's one coat, as I say. You're looking to have a thickness of 0.8 of a mil. So it trowels on really nicely. It's really smooth.
So with that, Dave, you've got the board joint there, and you've literally just troweled straight over that board joint with this product.
Yeah.
No need for any scrim.
So there's no need for any scrim tape. You make sure you squeeze some into the joint there. So make sure you fill the joint up. Squeeze it in there, trowel it in.
And what's it like to apply? Is it nice and smooth?
It's lovely and smooth. It goes on really easily.
No slumping at all, or?
No, I think you can see there. I've got a few trowel marks at the moment, but what I'll do, I'll get this side on covered, and then we'll go over that. So if I work it into the scrim tape as well. Just squeeze it in.
What's the with Waterproof 1C? What's the weight of the background?
Okay, so the weight of the tile, the weight of the background, sorry, is reflected through. So if the weight of the tile that can go onto a plasterboard is 32 kilograms, that's reflected through with the Waterproof 1C. If it's a plaster wall, it's 20 kilograms, then that would be 20.
And BAL board would be?
BAL board would be 100 kilograms.
100, yeah.
Yeah. I'll just finish going around the corner here, then I'll show you the difference when we use a roller. Okay.
So, what the application methods then? Is it trowel and?
So it's trowel, roller, or a brush. So if you want to get into the corners, it's nice and easy with a brush. Just scrape it in. You can either brush it really, if you're concerned about getting into the board joint, just brush into the board joint. Just lower the brush up, the roller up, sorry. You can see the difference that if I put it on with the trowel, the texture is slightly different if I put it on with the roller. You've got a nice stippled with the roller, you've got stipple, which is quite nice if when you're going to then apply your tiles with the tile adhesive. So it is a matter of preference. If you've got it, obviously it's going to take longer with a 4-inch roller than if you do with a trowel. But as long as you get that 0.8 of a mil thickness,
which you can achieve with the trowel, can't you, quite easily?
which you can achieve with a trowel, yeah.
I've got a question in from Paul. He's asking what's the coverage of Waterproof 1C?
Okay, so Paul, the coverage of Waterproof 1C is 6 square metres. It's one coat. So that 6 square metres would do most domestic showers. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that gets the idea.
Right, yeah.
But you can see that it gives a lovely textured finish there.
And what about on floors? Then.
Okay, so on floors, you can use it on floors, but it's got to be 2 coats on floors. So you're looking for a thickness of 1.6 mil. It can go on most substrates on floors. If you're going to be wanting to waterproof, if you put rapid mat down, for instance, you can use it on top of rapid mat. And like I say, it's 2 coats, and drying time between each one is 2 hours. So it's a 2-hour set. So in the morning, you're tanking the shower. Then by the afternoon, late morning maybe, you're going to be starting your tiling.
I've got another question here from Colin saying, does it stick to your arms and is it hard to peel off?
Well,
typical question.
Yeah. Well, if you wear your gloves and try and not get it on your arms is probably the answer to that. But yeah, it probably does stick to your arms if you get it on there.
And what's the drying time of the Waterproof 1C?
It's 2 hours.
2 hours before you can start setting out, yeah?
Yeah.
And tile after 2 hours, yeah?
Tile after 2 hours, yeah. Okay.
But I suppose, I don't know, the question is, we say tile after 2 hours, but if it was dry earlier than that, could you set out first? If you draw your lines on and stuff?
I'd leave it for 2 hours to set, otherwise it'll still be soft. And you don't want to compromise the integrity of the waterproofing. So you don't want, if you put pencil marks on, you might then end up just pushing through. Okay. So as I say, it'll bridge any static crack, anything that's around a water pipe hole or any internal corners, anything against the tray, then you want to use some scrim tape. Now the scrim tape that you need to use is BAL standard scrim tape, and it's important that you use the BAL one, because if you use any other one, it might not be suitable. BAL's an alkaline resistant one, so it doesn't break down. Okay. So it's important that you use the correct scrim tape. Okay, Phil, do you think that's covering everything on BAL Waterproof in 1C?
Yeah, I say if anybody's got any more questions, just put them in the comments box, and we will try and get back to you.
If I just recap on that, then, so the benefits of BAL Waterproof in 1C is internal. It covers most substrates without a primer. The exceptions are plastered wall, which you shouldn't really have plastered walls inside a shower now anyway. If you're using a fibre board, then if you're using BAL fibre board, then you need to prime the tiling side. But if you can get to do the prep yourself and you're putting the board on, then and you know it's a shower area, then reverse it and use it on the smooth side, and you won't have to put any primer on. Okay, so it's another great benefit really. It's the 2 hour set, so it's you're tiling on the same day, and also if you any product left, it's not wasted. You just reseal the bucket in the van, and it's great, good to go for the next job.
A couple of questions then. Sorry, just going on.
It's okay.
So the priming, and that's some absorbent surfaces then, is it?
Yeah, so the primer is to reduce the absorbency, so the the moisture in the product isn't taken out and just doesn't kill the product.
So you don't get you get pinholes, I suppose, if it's very absorbent. You didn't prime it.
It might just it just sucks out the moisture out of it and it might just start to peel.
Yeah. Another question here is: do you have to waterproof showers? Well, I know we talked about it at the start, but
Yeah.
what's the benefit?
Well, as I said at the start, it's best practice. The reason for waterproofing showers is when you think there's a tile that will stop any water going through, but the thing is, it's the grout in the joints is water resistant but not waterproof. So the grout is going to absorb the water, and over time that water will penetrate through and it could degrade the background. And there's plenty of examples of showers with bad plasterboard and how the mould sets in. So yeah, it is important, and it's best practice. It's in the standards that not only shower areas now, but also wet areas are all tanked. Okay. Right. Okay, so we're now going to look at BAL Tank-it. Now, BAL Tank-it is a two-part system. It's two applications. It's two coats as opposed to the waterproofing 1C. So it's two-part. It's powder, rapid cement, and it's a polymer. Now, because there's two parts, what we do is we'll mix this up in two different sets, and you apply the first coat, let that go off, and then you apply the second coat. So the first coat takes half an hour to set, the second coat takes 90 minutes. So approximately an hour and a half, 90 minutes, you're good to tile. Okay. So the other thing to notice about Tank-it is it's also great for external areas. It does internal as well, but unlike waterproofing 1C, it does external areas as well. So it does balconies, it does terraces. It can be used for swimming pools, whereas waterproofing 1C can't. So BAL Tank-it can be used in fully submersible situations. It must always be covered by a tile, though. It's not a wearable surface, so that's something to bear in mind. So let's just go ahead and see if we... So first of all, the way we recommend this to be mixed is I'm going to decant half the bottle into a mixing bucket. Into a measuring bucket rather than a mixing bucket. So I'm just going to decant half of this, 2.5 litres. Okay, so that's going to be for my first mix. This bucket, the product that's left in the bucket there, in the bottle there, will save for our second mix. Okay, so you'll notice on the bag here, I don't know if you can see that. So the bag is a 5 kilo bag, but there's a nice line down the middle. So if you get the bag flat and you pick it up by the middle there, that's half and half of approximately half and half of the product. So I'm then going to split down that line.
And what's that going to do? That's going to give you sort of roughly half and half, then, is it?
Yeah, so like I say, you've got two mixes to do with Tank-it. You've got two coats, two applications, and each one is the same consistency, same mix. So, you know, unless you've got a set of scales on site, then that's just a nice quick way to make sure that you've got an even mix, okay? So, what we'd recommend, so I'm going to put that to one side. That would be for our second mix. This is going to be for our first mix. In the bucket, I'm going to put about half the liquid, 1 1/4 litres. Mix, yeah. 1 1/4 litres. I'll put all the powder in now. And what we're trying to achieve here is a consistent mix, a thorough mix, a nice creamy. So we don't want any bits of the cement left in balls, so we're trying to get it totally mixed up. So I'm just going to mix. This is half the polymer. So once I'm happy that that's nice and clean mixed, I'll then add in the rest of the polymer. And continue to mix up. Now, as with most products for BAL, most cementitious products, what we recommend is after we mix it up, we mix for about 2 or 3 minutes. The way to tell it's mixed is it's this consistent colour, there's no lumps. But then we let it stand for about 2 minutes, and then we just give it a quick 30-second mix afterwards. So we're just trying to blend all that cement with the polymer. I'm just going to get a trowel just to wipe around the bucket. As I said, I'll let that sit now for 2 minutes. So if you've got any questions, now's a good time.
What's the colour of it when it dries?
Okay, so can you see, is that on camera then?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So that's like a dark grey, isn't it? So when it dries, it goes like a black. It goes really like a black. You'll hopefully see by the end of the session that what it dries like. But yeah, it dries like a black colour really.
Yeah, and easy to mix up.
Yeah, it's important to get all that cement combined in there. So you do have to give it a good spiral mix. You can do it by hand, but you've really got to blend it in. So, but it's so I'd advise you to use a spiral mix. Is that 2 minutes? Not quite. So I say,
For the purposes of the video.
yeah. Okay, so I just give it one more blast. Okay, so the consistency is probably, if anything, it's probably runnier than the waterproofing one sees. Like you're getting that. So, again, you've got the choice of application. You can use it with which camera am I on there? Yeah. So you've got choice of application. You can use a roller, or a trowel, or a brush. So I tend to, with this, because you're looking for a coat here, you've got to put 2 coats on. Each coat's got to be 1/2 mil. So you're looking for a final coat of about 1 mil. So to enable you to, if you're not sure about your coat thicknesses, you can use a notch trowel, a 4x4 notch trowel. And then what we do, we'll apply that. So again, Tank-it doesn't need priming. Another benefit, so it's straight onto the plasterboard. So before I just go on, I just want to say that the difference between waterproof and 1C and Tank-it regarding any board joints is you do need to scrim tape board joints with Tank-it with Tank-it. So I'll just quickly put a bit of scrim tape on this board joint and show you. If I can find the end, I will anyway.
It's always trouble with tape, isn't it?
Oh, my son's tape, isn't it? It is there, but my gloves weren't. There it is. Okay. Okay, so remember we didn't need to do it with the waterproof and 1C. But you do need to do it with Tank-it. The Tank-it is used for more probably commercial areas as opposed to waterproof and 1C with your domestic showers. But you can use this in domestic showers. It's a great product to use. It's quick drying. So as I say, you just trowel it on. And what this does, it enables you to make sure you've got your half mil, because when you've troweled it on with the ribs, then just fold the ribs over. And that's the desired thickness you're looking for. So I'll just do around into the corner.
And what's the weight and background for that one?
What's the what? Sorry.
What's the background weight again for that one?
So again, it mirrors. So whatever the background weight it is, it'll mirror through. So if it's BAL board 100 kg, then it'll have 800 kg. If it's a plasterboard, 32 kg. So it doesn't degrade it or diminish it.
And regarding that, you don't need to prime any background.
And again, no primer. I mean, the Tank-it is no priming at all. You can use it on steel as well, so on raised access platforms you can use it.
And you can use it over a rapid mat, can you, as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you get the idea. So you'd let that dry for about half an hour, and after that you then apply your second coat, and that you give that an hour, and then you're good to tile. Okay, so just to recap on Tank-it, it's used for internal and external wet areas. It dries in 2 coats, dries in about 90 minutes. It's easy to use. You can use it with a trowel, a roller, a brush, and it can be used in swimming pools. It's very versatile. It can be used in most situations.
Because I've got a question from Mark here. He says, why use Tank-it over 1C when obviously 1C you can just do it in one go?
Well, for the different areas that you've got. So if you're using Tank-it in the swimming pool, for instance, you wouldn't be able to use waterproof in 1C. It's externally. We talked about being on patios, on balconies. So that's another way you'd use it. Other than that, it's really down to preference.
Whether you'd want use a ready mix product or a two-part.
Yeah. I mean, a ready mix product, obviously, it's handy, it's easy to use, isn't it? It's like paste adhesive, isn't it, rather than cement adhesive. You tend to use paste adhesive because it just stays in the bucket. You can take it to the next job. There's no waste. It's no mixing. So there are benefits to Tank-it, but the ease of use with waterproof and 1C is there to be seen. Really, it's just it's in the bucket.
So 1C is probably more the domestic end of the market.
Yeah.
And 1C is more the commercial side of things.
Tank-it tends to be, as I say, tends to be for more your commercial side. and also for the more problematic substrates, really, that's all I would say, for areas where it's external, as I said, swimming pools, that sort of thing. Okay. Any other questions on Tank-it?
Not at the moment, but obviously, guys, if you're watching, if you've got more questions on either Tank-it or want to see if you missed earlier on, just put them in the comments page, and we will endeavour to answer them as best we can.
Okay. Okay, so the third product that we're going to talk about today, not going to demo this today, but we're just going to talk about it, is BAL Damp-proof membrane. So this is a really, really good product, and it gets you out of a hole. So if you've got a substrate that's it's renovation and you're unsure about that there's a damp-proof membrane in there, you can get it tested. If it's below, anything above below 75, then you're okay to tile. Anything above 75, then you need to start thinking about doing a damp-proof membrane. So this is where this comes into its own. So it's an epoxy system. It's a two-part epoxy system with a resin and a hardener. You mix the two together. You've got about 20-minute work time. So you mix the two together, spiral mix. Then you put a bit back into the hardener. And the idea of that is you're trying to make all the product inert, because if you left the hardener there and disposed of it, then it's a hazardous waste. And I think there is a fine actually if you dispose of hazardous waste irresponsibly. So the way to make it inert is just to do back mixing. So you mix the two together in the big bucket. You then a bit of that product put back into the smaller bucket here, and just mix it up, and it makes it inert. And it also you use most of the product then. So there's two trowels that we'd use with this product. And if we're trying to put a damp-proof course down onto a screed, a sand cement screed that we think suspect and needs damp-proof membrane. So we put that down with a B2 trowel. The B2 trowel is 350 microns. So it's important to know that once you've mixed this, you want to get it out of the bucket as fast as you can, because it wants to go off really quite quick. It's an exothermic reaction. And so if it stays in its mass, it goes harder quicker. So if you get it out of its mass, get it onto the floor, it gives you more work time. So you use a B2 trowel, and that'll give you a thickness of 350 microns. So you trowel it out, and then you just flatten the ribs. You get a roller, you load the roller with some product, and then you just flatten the ribs out. And that'll give you, as I say, you let that then dry for 8 hours, and then you'll put on a priming coat. And that's done with a different trowel. That's done with an A2 trowel, and that gives you 200 microns. So again, you'd get it out of its mass onto the floor, you'd spread it out, and then you flatten it with a roller preloaded with the product. And then because it's too shiny a surface, it's too smooth, for tiling, what you're going to need to do is sand blind it. And so what you've got here is it's just pre-graded sand. It's a fine coarse, fine sand, and you just load it, blind it to refusal. So what that means is that you throw so much sand on there that you can't see the product. Now, when the product goes down, it's black. So you throw your sand on there until you can't see any of the black. And then the next day you might come along, and then you'll sweep up any excess or hoover up any excess. And that will give you a great key then to tile onto. Okay.
So what sort of applications would you be using DPM as a DPM as a waterproofer?
Yeah, so you could use it, for instance, if you're lucky enough to have a basement and you want a basement swimming pool or wet room. So you can use it on the floor as a damp-proof bed. You can also bring it up the walls as a waterproofer to about 1 metre, and it will stop any water penetration that way. Another good use for it is on steel. Sometimes you have staircases, steps that are steel, and if you sand, I don't want to say sand, that's not the right word. If I
Abrasion.
abrade, that's the word I'm looking
yeah.
for, Phil, thank you very much. If you abrade the surface so it's shiny, then you can apply that. And again, you'd sand blind it, but you would only use to prime that, you'd only use the A2 trowel. And then you sand blind it, and then you could then tile on top of that. So it's great to do on any steel staircases, any subterranean rooms that you happen to have, or any suspect damp floors. It's another good use is anhydrite floors. If the anhydrite is not quite dry, if it's up to 87%, then once you prepare the surface, remove the latents, then you want to fast track, then you use the DPM on top of that.
So it's a good, talking about as a DPM then, places like old houses maybe?
Yeah, so essentially,
DPM?
anything that's pre-1970s, anything from 1970 onwards came under building control, any building, then they had to have a visqueen or a slip membrane, damp-proof membrane. But pre-1970s, it wasn't part of building control, so it's always a bit suspect whether those houses will or will not have damp-proof. So you're best to just do a test. And if you're not sure, then you need to play safe and put the DPM down.
And what things like garages as well, garage floors and that sort of thing as well? Do you put DPM down?
Yeah, again, if you're going to be tiling that, so again, you need to make sure that it's no water vapour is going to be coming through and pressure, so you can DPM that as well. Garage floors, we find, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so no further questions, but I've got to say, if anybody's got a question and they just want to put it in the comments, we'll try and get back to you. And if not, if we can't get back to you now, we'll come back to you later on those comments as well.
Yeah. Okay, guys, so thanks very much for watching. Much appreciated. Thanks for your time. And as Phil said, if any questions, we'll sort out. We'll draw for a prize and then... Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
And also, if you're watching still, remember just to say hi to us, and then we'll get you a goodie bag out with a t-shirt, a BAL t-shirt in.
Okay, thanks very much then, guys. Thanks for watching.